What's up, guys? So, welcome. I thought I'd, for the first time ever, believe it or not, in my 38 years, put together a 2024 year in review video. I see these things on YouTube, in blogs, people talking about what their last year has been like, and it's been a pretty big year for me, and I want to signpost it, document it, and also just share it with you to let you know what's been going on in my life, what's happening, so I can also, of course, look back on this in a decade from now and say, okay, that's what 2024 was like. So yeah, without further ado, I'm going to be talking about everything as best as I can, so get comfortable. This might end up being a bit of a longer video in terms of what happened in 2024. So I'll be going through I'll be talking about fundamentally the major things that have happened personally as well as professionally. So at a personal level, I'm going to be talking about my running. I did several 100-mile runs for the first time ever. I'm going to be talking about my transition to my first real full year in Italy, January to December. I'm going to talk about me having a dog in my life. First time I've ever had a dog, adopting a senior border collie. And I'm going to also then talk about, I guess, then it is a little bit of business and personal, but just a bit of an expansion of mindset, self-belief, and how manifestation, talking about things I wish to see in my life, or talking about things if they're already in my life, is beginning to play a role. And then we'll be talking also about business and things that are happening. So broadly, there'll be the businesses, the new business that I've started in 2024, how they're doing, some of the revenue numbers and what's happening there and plans. We'll also be talking about the businesses that I have, like general updates as to the business that I have already running. And we'll then also look towards, of course, 2025 and what my plans are for this year and the things that I want to achieve personally and professionally. So I'll try and leave timestamps in the comments or whatever it is. But without further ado, let's get going. So at a personal level, the biggest thing that happened in my life was running. So I come from a background where I love running. I'd venture as far as to say that I've always been a runner, definitely a hobbyist runner. 2024 was the year that I turned to amateur / semi-professional in terms of my training discipline. I started with my running coach in December of 2023. I found a running coach in November, organized planning, setup and stuff, and I really kicked off in December 2023. So I had a full year of training leading up to several events that I ran. So I was actually looking at you're going to be shocked. I was looking at my Strava stats. I actually only realized when a buddy of mine on Facebook was like, yo, I just looked at your Strava stats, incredible, da 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 da. And I didn't even become aware of it because I switched to Garmin and VO2. So I'm not really checking at what's happening on Strava in general, but because of what Ed said, thank you, Edward Grieg, I then went and had a look at my Strava the other day. So 2024 has been a year in which I was running for 435 hours. So I spent 435 hours running. So that's the first thing that was pretty crazy. I also ran, in terms of the distance, almost the equivalent of running from London all the way to Istanbul. So I did around 2,400 and something miles of running. So that was the distance that I ran. And in terms of elevation, I did around 76,000 meters, which is Mount Everest 8.5 times. So that was the literal time spent running, distance traveled, and elevation gain. So yeah, pretty nuts. I think that if I was to benchmark that against other ultra people, it'd probably be pretty normal and perhaps on the lower side, and I'll explain why. But yeah, I've not run that much ever in my life. And in terms of the headline events for the year, I did 4 real major events, let's say. 1 I did not finish, and then 3 I completed. The ones that I completed were the major ones that I was going for anyway, which was great. So I did a 100 So basically, I got a running coach. I moved to Italy, and I live in a hilly area, not too far away from the mountains, although I never went to the mountains to run, but I live in a very hilly area, woodland, countryside in Piedmont in northern Italy, and I wanted to get back into running. I'm living in the countryside. I've got clean air, lots of trails, and just plenty of opportunity to run because I don't live in a population centre anymore. So you just see people less. So you're by yourself, if you will, more. Although arguably that's different now in an age where everyone can communicate with anyone on the internet. But yeah, no. So I did a 100-kilometer run, a park run. I did a 100-mile run, which was a trail run, and then I did another 100-mile run, which was the one that I did not finish, which was a mountain run in the Alps. And then I did a 200-mile run in the south of England through the Downs National Park. So they were the 4 events that I did. Every event minus the 100, every event required pre-qualification to actually enter those events. So you can't really just turn up to a 100K run and just do it, because there could be potentially, I mean, you need to sign liability waiver forms to every event, but there's also that problem that if you turn up and you're not like healthy enough, it's not good for the organization, obviously. So I did the 100K run, which took me, I think, 11 hours, 44 minutes from memory. That was a park run. So that was also a bit of a mind bender. I'd never done a 100K run around a park. And that was my first 100K. That was my first run longer than marathon distance since 2019. I was leading up to prepare to do a 100-mile run, just training myself. And I did a 100K run in 2019. I went all the way to, I don't even know where I went. I went to like Poland. I flew into Warsaw, and then I went somewhere else. And I remember just this random rural race in the Polish countryside, and I slept in the gymnasium because they opened up the school gym for all of the runners, and there were only like 20, 30 of us. No one spoke English. Like, no one spoke English. And there was me who was there, and off we went for a run. That was back in 2019. So then fast forward to this year, or last year, if you will. So I did the park run in Parco Rufino in Turin, which is basically a park in Turin, a 1-kilometer loop, 100 times. So that was cool. So that was 11 hours, 44 minutes. I started at like, I don't know. I started at, I think, around midday, to be honest with you, and I finished at 11:45 p.m. and it was absolutely pissing down by the time I finished. So that was a really, really cool experience to see that I could do it. Subsequent to that, and what was really interesting about that run, and it was a pattern as I discovered with each of my runs, is that the furthest that I ran, or the longest time that I ran, leading up to that run was 3.5 hours. So I didn't even run a marathon before I did 100K. So 100K is like maybe 62 miles or something. I didn't even run half. I didn't even do a 30-mile run to do 62 miles. And Alexi, if you're watching, I've got you to thank, buddy, because I would never have done that. So I'm 38 years old. I've come from a background of, as I've discovered, probably overtraining, because I did runs that were more comfortable for me this year. I ran more consistently, so probably overall I ran more because I ran 6 days a week, but I didn't have runs that were, I had very few runs in training that were grueling, that would knock me out, which meant that the longest time I would take off post-run would be like 1 or 2 days, maximum 3 days in training, because the furthest I'd run was furthest I would run for would be 3.5 hours. So I remember just being really worried and saying to him, oh, I don't think that I've run enough. Are you sure that I've run enough? I'm going to be running for probably 3 times this. And of course I was running for 11 hours, 45 minutes. So it's more than 3 times as much as I run in training. So it was difficult, but I finished, and I finished comfortably. And that was the thing that was incredible for me. So that was my first run. My second run was, and that was training. And the only reason that I did that run was so I could run the 100-mile run in the Downs. So that was with an organization called Centurion. I was looking originally for a 100-mile run, basically, and I was bouncing around for 100-mile runs, trying to find something that I thought, okay, this would be a cool run to do. The park run was flat, right? It's just a flat road run around in a park that's kind of on concrete. It goes around in a loop. But the 100-mile run, the Centurion run in the South Downs Way 100, that was a trail run. Okay, that was in woodlands, and that was 3,000, I can't remember, maybe 3,500 meters of elevation gain. And that was a run that for me was a bit scary. It was like, wow, what would it take to run 100 miles? Now, I eventually ended up running this year a 200-mile run. And that run in my mind did not even exist until I finished this second run, which was a Centurion 100 miler. So it's also just crazy to think that I ultimately ended up running a 200 miler in December. So June, July, August, September, October, November, December. So 6 months before running the run, I decided that, why don't I try and run a 200 mile run, which I'll go on to talk about in a little bit. But yeah, so I did a 100 mile run. That was my first ever 100 miler. Again, scary. Again, something I'd never done before. This time I was self-supported. So I had a buddy of mine, Scott, who came and kind of led the team that I had for my 200 miler. But on the day of the 100 mile run, I went to meet him and he couldn't actually come with me on the morning of, because there was a family illness. His brother-in-law ultimately ended up passing away that morning, him saying, look mate, I can't come. So then I went off to the event and I thought, okay, this is going to be interesting. How am I going to do this by myself? But that run got done. I did that run in something like 22 hours, 42 minutes, and I actually felt really strong during that run. So that ended up being like a really great race for me. And because I finished so comfortably, I thought, okay, great, what's next? And that's when I began looking for the 200 mile run. So that was again in the Downs. It wasn't the same route, it was that route backwards and then a whole load of other places. So the whole thing just felt different, but the same part of the country, the South Downs, the same part of the country, which was essential for the Centurion 200 miler. So that one, the 100 miler was in June. The 200 miler just gone was in December, maybe the 11th to the 14th, I think. And that was, I mean, that was an incredible, it's been an incredible year of running, I guess is what I'm trying to communicate. That run, so the Centurion 100 miler, I think I finished maybe 130 something, like 125th maybe out of 400 people maybe. So there's a lot more people that did that run, like 400 people, something like that. So because there were several hundred people running the 100 miler, you don't need navigation because there's always someone to follow. The course is marked, so you can just use the course markings. When I went to the 200 miler, the max number of people they allowed was 100 people. And then the course wasn't marked. And then you're not able to really follow someone because people get so spread out. So the allocation of, and I guess I didn't really appreciate it at the time. 100 milers are becoming popular. 200 milers are still early days, but 200 miles is again another huge separator. Like I guess there's not too many people out there that are prepared to run 200 miles. And I guess it makes sense because I ended up pretty much being on my feet for, I finished 18th out of 74, 75 people. 24 people did not finish, and it took me 69 hours and some change, like 15 minutes or something like that. So 69 hours. So I started running on a Wednesday and I finished on a Saturday. So yeah, that was an incredible experience, to be honest with you. So that was my year of running. I mean, they were the events I was training for. It's been an incredible year for running 6 days a week, running in rain, in snow, in daylight, in darkness, at dawn, at dusk, 6 days a week, pretty much consistently for a 1 year period. And I can't tell you how much that has changed my notion of what's possible, because if you really think about it, my first ever 100 mile run, my first ever 200 mile run, the same year that I spent my first year in Italy, I have a company with 100 plus people to run. I got a dog for the first time, and because of our standards, we have a dog that we walk the dog 4 times a day. So yeah, it's been a really big year, and it just really underlined to me what really is possible. And I'll come back and talk about the impact that's had personally and professionally, but running has probably been personally the biggest thing that's happened this year. So the other thing that happened personally is that we got our first dog. So when I say we, it's my wife and I. So Spritz, he's a senior dog, 11-year-old border collie mixed with another pastoral type of dog, bigger dog. And it's notable because of the responsibility that having a dog comes with, relative to the standard that Daniela and I maintain when it comes to pets. So we buy the dog like meat every day, so it eats meat twice a day, And then we walk the dog 4 times a day. So that means that I wake up, I take the dog for a walk. It gets to lunchtime, I take the dog for a walk, or early afternoon. It gets to around the end of the day, so when I finish up work, I take the dog for a walk. After dinner, take the dog for a walk. 7 days a week, no matter what the weather is, whether it's absolutely pissing down with rain, whether it's snow, take the dog for a walk. So that's become the new standard. So from a perspective of responsibility, especially as Daniela and I are looking at starting a family, having a dog is, of course, enforcing new responsibilities upon us. And it was a real, I mean, it was, practically speaking, it was an adjustment, and it caused me an initial batch of stress, which I was happy to manage. But practically the adjustments you make to your schedule, your timetable. We got the dog in August, I think, maybe. I say somewhere around my birthday, but in the month of my birthday, when I turned 38, we got the dog. Daniela actually saw a sign for a border collie that was being given away. Quite sad, actually. So as I said, it's 11 years old, and it's strange for an 11-year-old dog to be given away, but the couple who had the dog got divorced. The dog grew up with children and a golden retriever. The husband and wife got divorced, split up. The dogs got split up, and the dog that was in a home moved to a flat, and then the dog got used to being in the house it grew up in. I think it was outside in the garden much of the time, and then in the new flat, the wife and husband were away from the house a lot, so it was by itself a lot, so much less walks, and I guess it led to a life that just wasn't that fun or pleasant for the dog. So it's been amazing. I mean, it's been absolutely incredible. If you're ever to check me out, I do WhatsApp status updates, and I mean, occasionally when I remember Instagram. I'm old school, which is to my detriment, I think, when it comes to doing stuff like this. But I post updates of my walks with spritz, basically. It's spritz like Aperol spritz. So having a dog's been a significant life change. It's been a wonderful change, and yeah, I think, it teaches you practical responsibility, because you've got to take care of the pet, you've got to understand its needs, you've got to walk a dog, as I said, several times a day, and you've got to try and interpret it what it wants. And it wants constant attention. And my brother-in-law's father, actually, John, likened it to having an 18-month-year-old child that basically never grows up. So that's great, it's great. So having the dog is great. So that's also been one of the big life changes of 2024. An amazing one, to be honest with you. We've also just recently, Daniela sent me some videos. Our cat Jenny, because we've got a cat as well, so Jenny, our cat Jenny now comes out of our home and walks up the country trail when Daniela takes the dog. I've been with them once when it's happened, but it's just started happening recently. But there'll be Daniela, there'll be Spritz, our dog, and then there'll be Jenny, cat, following them behind. So it's been absolutely incredible. I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. And interestingly, actually, what happened is that when we got the dog, Daniela and I started sleeping upstairs and downstairs. So I would sleep downstairs initially because we weren't sure how the dog would be with Jenny. Spritz would be with Jenny. And what happened is that as we began sleeping in separate beds, her quality of sleep improved, my quality of sleep improved. I have a different timetable because I wake up between, let's say, 4:30 and 6 a.m. Daniela will wake up 8 a.m. Both of us sleep better. So now, since August, we've been sleeping in separate beds, and it's becoming a bit of a permanent thing. And I forget that that's quite unusual I don't know any other couple currently that does that at our age, but it's been a huge positive. So for those of you who are wondering what it's like, you sleep better, it is better, and it works when you have a stable relationship, I think. I mean, you need a stable relationship in general, otherwise nothing else will work anyway. But yeah, that's been also unforeseen benefit, actually, because it comes with its own challenges at times, but it's really been better for my restfulness also when it comes to training for ultras. Because what would also happen when I was doing these runs is I'd do like a 6-hour run on a Saturday, a 4-hour run on a Sunday. Even in training, I did like a 100K run, a 60K run. So whilst for all of my training, never ran often even half of what I needed to. So for my 100-mile run, the furthest run that I did was, so for my 200-mile run, the furthest I ran was 62 miles. So that's like just over a quarter. So I did a 100K run to train for a 320K run, right? And you'd be like, that's not enough, is it? But that was the big lesson that I learned from this year, that I, compared to other runners who didn't have coaches, they often had trained more or had done way more events than me, and they weren't following a taper in such a disciplined fashion. So that was why I was able to outperform. And get this, my coach cost me maybe 70 to 80 US dollars a month. So incredible value for money, incredible returns. Gone off on a bit of a tangent now, but yeah, the second and the third thing, running, getting a dog, and now us sleeping in separate beds. So 2024 was also my first year living in Italy, like full time. So what I mean by that is that I moved, I think originally October 2023, and then this year has been the first complete year. So I think that looking at some of the milestones, Daniela and I signed a long-term rental agreement at the property that we were in, because looking for a property to settle in became too cumbersome because of many reasons. There's lots of old property, lending is difficult. I'll need to spend several €100,000 up front, and then you don't know necessarily if you're going to stay in the area. So renting for a couple of years seemed to be sensible. So signing a longer term rental agreement that meant that we weren't sharing the whole villa that we have with anyone. I mean, it's more than a house. It is a villa. It makes it sound like it's incredible. It's not. But I mean, it is because the view is stunning. So we signed a 2-year rental agreement, which is great. So more stability and security for us. I really got to know the area. I got a car. I forgot to mention, I got a car. So that meant, it sounds inane, but Daniela had her own car, and then I got my car, and that meant I was able to drive around independently. So that just led to a lot of small, let's call them little breakthroughs. So me going to places by myself, me going to get the shopping sometimes by myself, me taking spritz out in the car by myself, me taking spritz out myself when I went to have dinner at a Chinese place that I go to called Hard Air. So I'd go with spritz myself for food. So it gave me that level of independence, which also helped us build stability within our relationship and help settle me within Italy, because I felt I had a sense of independence. So that was actually quite a big thing, getting my first car in Italy. And just managing basically the fact that I don't speak the language, so I don't speak Italian. I don't have a plan to learn Italian in 2025. I do have a plan to learn Italian. Let's hold off on that, because I may well go aggressive with learning Italian at some point in this year, but I don't have an immediate, imminent plan to learn Italian. So that being said, it's been a good year. Daniela solidified where she's going to start her studio, which is going to be in the villa that we live in. And that meant that we bought a couple of more Pilates. She's a Pilates instructor / osteopath, so we spent another 10,000 euros buying these Pilates reformer machines. So lots of growing of roots because of the long-term rental agreement, getting the dog, getting a car, signing off on the commercial premises and building the Pilates studio that she's going to have, her building up her business in Italy, and me getting more acquainted with the space, her family beginning to come to our place and see us stable and settled, and us entertaining at our place. We did all of Christmas at our place. She's doing New Year's. I'm back at my folks. This is where I am at my family home in my parents' family home in London. So yeah, no, it's been a really cool year from that perspective. And I forget sometimes that, I live in Italy. And I definitely say that feeling a lot more settled, and yeah, just looking forward to getting a lot of the documents that I need from an Italian perspective, so I can execute what I'm trying to do actually on the trading front, which we'll also come to later when we begin to talk about business. So Italy's now home for me in 2024 and for the next several years. So yeah, big solidification of where I'm going to be living. So what's also been incredible about me being in Italy is the impact it's had on my health. I'll definitely say, which is incredible, is that I am fitter at 38 than I was at 28. And at 28, I was running marathons. I'd done Ironman, I'd fought Muay Thai, I had applied to the British Special Forces, I'd gone through part of the application process. I, at 38, train not as intensively, but a lot more evenly, but I am just in a better place than I was. So that's just been really incredible to see, because you hear about that stuff on YouTube, or you read about that stuff and you're like, oh, well, if you're someone who's generally keeps in good shape, you don't have question marks about it, but you think, okay, well, that's for people that were once overweight and then have found a new place of health. But as with everything, there's comparable levels within your own like internal reference points. So practically speaking, what has been incredible, as you know, being fitter at 38 than at 28, is number one, I live up the top of a big hill. So that means to go up and down the hill, I was historically running it tons, and that made a big impact to my fitness. So that's just number one, where I live. Number two, because now I have a dog, I'm walking more than I've historically walked on a consistent basis. And that will continue for as long as I have a dog, and I'm intending to have a dog until I leave this earth. Spritz is older, so he will be with us for a couple of years, but that's just a big significant lifestyle change. So one, living on a hill; two, getting a dog; three, living in a place where there's no Deliveroo or Uber Eats. It means that you end up cooking a lot more, or eating home cooked food a lot more if I'm not doing the cooking, which is often I'm not. So that's been a really, really big thing. And in combination with that, because I have more free time, let's say, because I don't have mates that I'll hang out with on a Friday or a weekend, there's just less people within my network in general, less access to people, because I'm not living in London anymore. I'm living in countryside Italy. It means there's more room or opportunity to exercise. And also because there's better weather, especially through the longer summers, you tend to want to exercise and be outside more. So definitely fitter at 38 than at 28. And I think it's just been really incredible to witness and experience that within myself. And it also aligns with perhaps the final thing I want to talk about in terms of significant personal change, that being fitter at 38 than at 28, seeing myself fully transition to living in Italy, with one of the real big goals, actually, I'm going to do a bit of a reversal, that if I could speak relatively decent Italian, that's going to be big, because then I'll feel like, wow, you've really moved, you speak the local language. It's more than a local language, it's Italian, it's a pretty big, well-known language. It's going to really mean a lot in terms of my personal growth. So let's add it to the 2025 goals that we'll put down. But it really underlines the power of manifestation and goal setting. And that's been one of the, or perhaps in some respects, one of the biggest things or changes this year, because I moved to Italy and I thought, great, environmental change, lifestyle change precedes mindset change. And now what I want to precede any other changes is mindset change first, because actually it was mindset openness that led me to changing my location when I moved from living in Fulham in London to countryside Italy. So I think that one of the things I spoke about with the people within my team is that you need to speak your vision and speak your dreams into reality, and that your brains are incredible prediction machines. When we talk about our whys and when we talk about the goals that we want to have for our life, I want to have a YouTube channel with 100,000 subscribers. That's a benchmark I'd love to get to. It's scary to even say that out loud. But once you begin to say it out loud, at some level, your brain begins to start working consciously as well as subconsciously as to, well, Deepak, how are you going to generate 100,000 subscribers? How are you going to build an audience? And lo and behold, here I am. I'm here, I'm at my parents' place, and we're doing this video, and it's how things or outcomes like that begin. Same principle of me, I'm moving to Italy, I'm going to move to the countryside. Let me get a running coach. Let me just aim to do a 100-mile run. Let me pay someone to help me with that vision. So manifestation and goal setting has been big. Danielle and I want to start a family. I did this 200-mile run. I want to get incredibly personally rich in 2025, and then I want to create wealth for all of the people around me in 2025 bleeding into 2026. And I'm putting steps into place to make that happen. So manifestation by speaking about the things that I want to achieve, to I want to have the ability to have the Ferrari, I want to have the ability to buy and do the things that I wish to do, alongside ultimately then setting goals to bring that into play, is definitely changing the trajectory of my path. So manifestation and goal setting has been absolutely big. Think The Science of Getting Rich, think The Secret, think of Tony Robbins' Unleash the Beast within, and apply build in visualization, and then apply strong pragmatism. And that's been a massive thing for me in my personal life. And yeah, I'd say that in combination with those two, fitter at 38 than at 28, and manifestation and goal setting, it's been an incredible year. So a little sidebar talking about living in Italy. Some cool, new, interesting stuff that's happened. I've seen this transformation of our cat Jenny from an indoor flat cat to a wild, adventurous cat that not only follows us outside. I've seen this cat chasing mice, killing whole nests of mice, chasing birds, bringing in birds, chasing little lizards or geckos, fighting snakes. So it's been absolutely ridiculous seeing that. I've also seen more animals that I've had to either rescue or been exposed to in the countryside. So I've seen, obviously, snakes. I've seen a turtle, which I just thought was ridiculous, like out in the wild, a wild turtle. I've seen birds that Jenny's bringing in. I've seen mice. I've seen hedgehogs. I see hare all the time, or rabbits. I see deers. I see whole sets of deers. So it's been really incredible just to see the whole range of beauty of the Italian countryside, as well as just the reality that where we live, we have a view overlooking this incredible lake, Lake Viverone, and beyond the lake, we have the whole Aosta Valley, I think, mountain ranges, as well as the Alps in the distance. So we've got a lake, sunshine, and snow-capped mountains that are visible from almost 60% of the windows in our entire house. So from our living room, from the bedroom. So that's also just been absolutely incredible. So I've got all of this incredible scenery that's there when I look out the window, almost all of the windows in Italy, and it just makes such an incredible change from coming to council housing area West Drayton or North End Road in Fulham, where we spent a lot of time living. 5 years I think I was there. So the change of scenery and the wildlife I've been exposed to has been pretty incredible. That is a pretty decent overview of what's happened for me personally. We've had the running from 100k all the way up to 200 miles. We've had my actual move to Italy itself, of course. All of this happened in the hills of Italy, and then the runs happened in Italy, 2 of them, the other 2 were in the UK, and all of the changes come with me living in Italy, getting a car, long-term rental agreement, settling down in the place that we have, Daniela setting and starting up her business, and me just getting fully entrenched with Italian tax residency and all of the corresponding pieces. We obviously have a dog now, which has been kind of incredible. we've begun sleeping in separate rooms, and it's actually really benefited our sleep quality, which has helped our relationship. It's helped me be more effective at work and wake up earlier and get work done in the morning and not worry about waking her up, and then she doesn't get disturbed every morning. So that's where there's been a quality of life improvement, because if people think about like intimacy, as I'll say, I mean, couples aren't being intimate every evening when they go to bed, and the reality is I'm going to bed at like 10, and then Danielle's going to bed at midnight. So I'm asleep almost always by the time that she comes in, or I'm trying to get to sleep. So it's definitely been really good for us. So that's been really great. And yeah, just being fitter at 38 than at 28, like incredible. Read about it, heard about it, didn't really embody and imbue it. Now I do. The corresponding health benefits of no Deliveroo, no Uber Eats. I'm not smashing, like I've been in London, I've had Nando's 2 days in a row, I had a KFC, and I'm just gorging here. And just the quality of foods that I have access to in Italy, and the problems that faced having crap food in Italy has made me just much healthier as a person. So it's been really great. And then of course, like expanding my sense of what's possible, manifestation, goal setting. Incredible year personally, and I'm really excited for what 2025 is going to bring in my personal life. I've got goals that will kind of come to towards the end. So now we come to the segment of my professional life in 2024. So I want to cover it in a couple of different spaces. So I want to talk about fundamentally business started, new businesses started, businesses planned, and business updates. So they're the three buckets we're going to get to cover in this segment. So let's talk about businesses started first of all. So number one, we've got Pearl Lemon Cleaning. So to be honest with you, long story short, my family, when they migrated over from India as economic migrants back in, I think, the 60s, originally my grandfather, and then my parents came over, we began our lives here as cleaners. My grandfather was a cleaner at Heathrow Airport. So cleaning has been something that we've grown up hearing and knowing about, because my grandfather came in not speaking a word of English, cleaning at Heathrow Airport, and then managing a team of cleaners, and then subsequently my parents, my aunties, my uncles, my brother, my cousins all end up working at Heathrow Airport under ultimately the influence of my grandfather. So I've always admired cleaning companies. I have hired cleaners, and I just thought it was a good business to get into. So it's really pretty interesting. We've done several £1,000s. We're onboarding maybe 10 to 15 new clients a month. In terms of the business model, it's pretty cool. It's pretty straightforward in some senses. We buy inquiries on various portals online where people are looking for cleaners. So examples of that, you can find cleaners via, for example, TaskRabbit, Check a Trade, Bark. There's all of these different platforms where you can buy cleaning inquiries from. We then have a sales rep installed, and we purchase the leads, we have the sales rep installed, and then we subcontract the work out to, of course, a roster of cleaners that we find in London. There's labor challenges that come with it, because as you can appreciate, cleaning is quite transient in terms of people that come and clean. They typically are often non-tax residents in the beginning, so they don't have a right to work in the country, and or they are recently tax resident, but they have a view to depart the country. And in light of the post-Brexit environment that we live in, it's more difficult to find, for example, Europeans or continental Europeans, because the UK is still part of Europe, depending upon what legislature you're looking at. But yeah, it's just difficult to find people. But in any event, it's going well. We've got enough inquiries. We are winning, as I said, 10 to 15 clients a month. My involvement in it is really from the bird's eye, let's call it CEO level, to just make sure our sales rep is happy, are the leads coming through, and then we've got a project manager, and then we've got a hiring manager, and that's fun. And then we've obviously got the cleaners to sit underneath that. So that's the business model at the moment. In parallel with that, we've also got then websites that we're building, Pearl Lemon Commercial Cleaning, or Pearl Lemon Cleaning, and then Pearl Lemon or commercialcleaners.co.uk. We're looking for commercial cleaning jobs. And the reason I got into it was because last year, as part of the manifestation and goal setting I spoke about, I've always had this vision of building a billion. That's not true. But in the last year, I've developed this vision of building a £1 billion company. How is it that I'm going to do it? What is it that I need to do? Can running a marketing agency help get me to the £1 billion level? Certainly, with the economic model that I currently have, where we're doing SEO and we're doing, for example, B2B lead generation, the path forward hasn't been clear to me. Probably there's people that do it, and perhaps it requires further research and investigation, but I have done some research and I have done some investigation. I have been in that business for 6-7 years, but I've not yet easily unearthed a route to hundreds of millions. So cleaning is a different beast. Cleaning is repeatable. Cleaning can remain the same even as you scale. Cleaning is sticky business. It's retention. You can jump from domestic to commercial. So you go from cleaning, for example, a office environment to a residential environment to a industrial environment. It's a bit different there, granted, but the scales and complexity aren't outrageous. But the contracts that you can win and the size of contracts, imagine winning governmental work for 1,000 plus buildings. Imagine winning private sector work for 1,000 plus buildings, and so on and so forth. And then there's international opportunities. So the future and what's possible with cleaning, I think, is absolutely incredible. So Pearl Lemon Cleaning was an idea that blossomed in perhaps June, July. We started the business in July, and here we are in the new year, and Wayne, the business development director, is bringing in December, he brought in 11 new clients or 11 new deals. In November, I think he brought in maybe 12. In January, I'm sure he's setting a minimum benchmark. He wants to do 12 plus and eventually make his way towards 20. So great start, and that's Pearl Lemon Cleaning. Now, let's talk about Pearl Lemon Repairs. So Pearl Lemon Repairs, again, similarly, I was looking at businesses that have high ticket, ultimately opportunity. So what I mean by that is that in, for example, the agency world, so my primary business is a marketing agency, it is difficult sometimes to find a client who will happily pay you £10,000 a month. But what's interesting about repairs is, so repairs, home repairs, renovations, refurbishments. So the total addressable market is huge because it's anyone who's a homeowner or an owner of buy-to-let properties, okay? So that's a huge market, worldwide, global, local. All you need is a population center. That's number one. Number two, it is recession-proof. If you have a busted toilet, it doesn't matter how bad the economy is or how bad the weather is or how bad anything is. If your toilet doesn't flush and you've got a household filled with kids, you're calling an emergency plumber to try and fix your toilet. So if you take that as a ultimately reflection of what's possible with repairs, it means there's always work to be done, and people spend a lot of money on their homes. So you can get both £50 jobs to quickly install a light bulb to £50,000 jobs for, can you do a loft conversion for me? So it's a really great model. The model, or the company that we're focused upon, is Pimlico Plumbers. They look them up, Google them, Pimlico, which is a place in London, plumbers. They sold after 20-30 years in operation for 150 million, based off £50 million revenue with 10 million EBITDA. So they were doing a 20% ultimately return, 5-to-1 on the revenue they were creating. And how they operated, this is the kicker, was sales and ops, but all of their plumbers and repair people were subcontracted. So we're operating the same model. I had the idea in August with a buddy of mine, Luke, and we got to December, we've done close to £20,000 in revenue, which has been brilliant. We, again, similarly, if you've watched a cleaning segment, there's multiple portals where you can purchase home repair and cleaning leads online. So Check a Trade, My Plumber, My Jobs, Bulk, etc. We purchase leads, we then try and convert a proportion of those leads, and we're growing our field of subcontractors who we can do work with. And then that's how we're approaching repairs. Huge ambitions with it. It's really exciting to see that cleaning is growing, repairs is growing, and with repairs similarly, because we have this two-pronged approach, because we've got the actual leads that we're purchasing, and then we've got SEO, because we've got, of course, a strong SEO engine, and I'll come to talk about that if you're thinking, what are you talking about, Deepak? But we've got a range of websites. We've got Pearl Lemon Repairs, we've got Pearl Lemon Home Repairs, we've got Pearl Lemon Facilities Management. So now I'll talk about the B2B and the commercial opportunity. So as you can imagine, what happens then when, for example, you have a building? What if you're a commercial company and you need to renovate your building? What if you're a governmental company, a governmental organization, you need to renovate your building? What happens if you're a land development company and you need to hire a construction crew? There's a huge commercial opportunity. I want us to build, and what we are doing is building an effective sales vehicle. So we've got a couple of websites, so Pearl Lemon Repairs, Pearl Lemon Home Repairs, Pearl Lemon Facilities Management. We've got 3. There'll soon be window installation services, and there'll soon be driveway installation. That's 5, and there's maybe going to be another one. We're going to quickly move into the commercial space as well. So I do predict that 2025 will be the year that we break 100 grand, because of the plans and visions and missions that we got. And this is what is happening with Pearl Lemon Repairs, which is business number 2 for businesses started in 2024. Now let's go on to business number 3. So business number 3 is Pearl Lemon Properties. So I started this business a couple of years back. I started to get, I got like kind of my sister involved, and it didn't quite work out because we were trying to figure the business model out. So the website, pearllemonproperties.com, has just stagnated, if you will. It's generating leads, but we weren't doing anything with them. Cue me reconnecting with a guy that I bought some properties off because he worked for a company called Property Hub. They're probably a 4 to 6 million, so a £5 million a year business approximately, and he has been with them for several years and has seen the rise of their business, and he was running their whole sales department. So we've now partnered up, and he's come in, and we again have already closed our first deal. First payment has come in, and we are building out the property, let's call it portals, if you will. And what's exciting about that is that we've got 1 dedicated full-time sales rep. We've got 1 business partner who's my, also amazing sales director. And again, similar infrastructure that we've got pearllemonproperties.com, plproperties.co.uk, pearllemonproperties.co.uk, PL Mortgages, because we want to go into the mortgage business, we want to go into the lettings business. We want to build a whole ecosystem because, as you can imagine, when you get a property, someone who wants to buy a property, right, they need to then potentially rent the property, but then also to buy it, if you want to buy a property for £200,000, £1 million, you might take a loan. So if you want to take a loan, you need to get a mortgage broker. You need to get someone who can help you get the loan. So then there's a fee there. Then you also need the lawyers, then you need the accountants, and then you need the place to be rented. So if you think about that entire ecosystem, we've not even yet come to it because we've got businesses that have grown in 2024, but I don't even know if they started in 2020. Maybe they started in 2023, but we've got Pearl Lemon Accountants and Pearl Lemon Legal, right? As I discovered, my accountant said to me, bro, I think we did maybe 30K in our first year and about £6,000 profit. And he said to me, and he's a six-figure accountancy practice, and he said to me, your accountancy firm did more money than my practice did in its first year of business. So Pearl Lemon Properties, really excited about it. And I think that because there's pressure for me to make sure that my team can eat, because I need to basically generate all of the inquiries so that sales can flow in, there's huge emphasis to ensure that we generate a big business for Pearl Lemon Properties in 2025. It continues. So now we've got PPL, which is pay-per lead generation in the marketing space. So as I discovered when I was targeted by a Facebook ad when I was looking at the lead generation space. So if you recall previously, I did mention I was looking for bigger opportunities within digital because I thought, where's the way to finding bigger work? And what then happened is I discovered a course by this gentleman called Jacob, who I saw his ad, who he said, I did 4 million revenue in 1 year by myself, and from that I made more than 1.5 million profit. And I thought, this is incredible. I looked at the model and it's pay-per lead generation. So what that means is if you are, for example, a investment company, so you specialize in having people that have money to invest into different investment vehicles. So that might be, you have pension options, you have stock options, you have property options, you have crypto, you have all of these different options, right? You then need people that have money that want to make investments with certain guaranteed or speculative returns on investment, right? So imagine you're a finance house of some kind and you want to offer people these services. What you need for your sales team is leads. And what you might be willing to do is pay for a lead who has submitted their information and is ready to, and again, if you think about finance, maybe someone needs a credit card, maybe someone needs a loan for a mortgage, maybe someone needs a loan for a business. There's all of these reasons that people either have money to invest or want to borrow money, okay? So if you think about the financial services space in general, there's huge opportunity. So with that in mind, what this course, because I ended up buying this guy's course, Jacob, £7,500, and again, talking about manifestation and goal setting, you know, I paid for this course, £7,500, something to that effect, and I didn't even take a large part of, I watched 30% of the course and then I stopped. Because all that happened was I went in and I understood, okay, I understand the business model. So I looked at how are the sales done? How does the business work? How does the industry work? And that was all I needed. So sometimes you need to spend a little bit of money to get skin in the game to then build out the business. So that's PPL. And what's interesting is there's a significant presence of several £100 million businesses in this space. Because if you're, for example, a company who says, look, if I can pay for a lead and I'm happy to pay, if I know my profit on someone who invests for a mortgage or for a pension, let's just say this guy gets a pension with this investment pot and that pension or that client is worth to me £2,000 on average, I might be willing to pay £200 for 5 leads because I know that I convert one of them. So it costs me £1,000 because 5 leads to turn it into 2,000 because 5 times 200 is 1,000. If my profit is 2,000 per person, that means I can turn 5 leads into, or £1,000 into £2,000. So then that's your way to print money. So then you might pay someone like Pearl Lemon or Paper Lead Services Agency, because we have several websites we set up for it, to generate said leads. So we've done maybe $50,000 or pounds this month, in the last 3 to 4 months since we invested in this course, because I had the mindset shift, and this is absolutely a space that we can build a several £100 million a year agency. So to that end, really, really exciting. We've registered paper lead services agency, we've registered financial lead generation agency.com, we've registered insurance lead generation agency.com, plumbing lead generation agency.com is going to go live, .co.uk for all of them in fact, and that is something that I'm really excited about for 2025, and it should turn into hopefully a 10x growth in 2025 to reach a 500k outcome, because one client, and this was the interesting thing about the Jacob course, the several million he made, one of the clients spent over £1 million with him buying leads. And then if you can imagine, if I charge you 100 quid for a lead, but it costs me 50, I'm making 100% margin or a 50% margin, depending upon, I'm making basically, I'm paying 50 and I'm charging you 100, so I'm making 50. So the more that you spend, the more that I make. And that's how the business scales. And again, if you're making money on the other side of it, everyone wins. So that is the other business that started in 2024. The final business that started in 2024 is React or web development, because we've done design before. So web development started in 2024. We got offered, or we came across a client who came for SEO, DAR Global, who needed React development. They knew that we didn't have any background in React development, but Carla, I thank you still. You took a leap of faith on me to think, I think this guy can figure this out. Show me you can bring in a development team. We did bring in a development team, and we ended up perhaps billing something to the tune of £30,000 to £40,000 in web development fees for React web development. So web development is a big, big space. There are a presence of several £1 million companies in the web development space. To that end, we've now got plans for 2025 to grow into web development, and we have, again, similar model, and we'll come to talk about the model, several websites dedicated to it, but it's been a wild ride really with web development, bringing in React web developers, understanding how the React framework, how React works, seeing that there's an opportunity there, registering exact match domains for React development agency, having a look at the wider web development ecosystem and registering maybe app development, web development services, per niche. Just so you know, our model typically is if we have a niche, for example, one of the niches that we'll come to is like video directing. We'll typically register 3 to 5 websites to hedge, because one website, we might do all of the right things to one website and we might not get a result. So if you really think about this process, this is why people try and attempt to create, let's say, 10 viral videos, because all 10 aren't going to go viral. You don't really know objectively which one's going to go viral. So it's sensible to hedge your bets and to give yourself the greater chances to build a system that can manufacture 10 hits, because then only one of them will become a hit. So that's the model that we follow when it comes to launching multiple websites. So that is the really final business for new businesses started for 2024, and it's why I'm excited for 2025, because we're going to build a £1 billion business. And for those of you who always thought, well, how do you do that? I don't know exactly how, but I'm beginning to see that this is the path to how, and I will come to, when we discuss plans for 2025, some of the newer things even that we're doing, because it continues. So that is everything in the space of businesses started in 2024 and how they're going. So for this one, I've got my notes in front of me because there's quite a few things to get through, so I'll try and be efficient and quick, and this is probably for the team internally. So yeah, let's go through business updates one by one. So Pearl Lemon, the actual agency, was really strong this year. We definitely, I think, fluctuated anything from 60 up to close to £100,000 per month. The great thing about it is that we've been really profitable, and I have been, as evidenced perhaps by the new businesses started, in a position as we moved into Q4, coming out of Q4 into the new year, been in a position where I don't need to be involved in the day-to-day runnings of the business. So I don't meet any of the clients anymore, and I'm not involved in any of the client delivery, client ops, client meetings, which has freed me up to work more globally and strategically across the business. So that's of course what you would expect of a business. It's just taken me 7 years to figure out how to do it with building out a stronger team. So the agency has grown and does do well. December's definitely been more quiet, and we probably had maybe only a £65,000 month or something like that. But I think it was to be expected to a degree. We've had pauses and cancellations, but coming into January, things will begin to pick up, and I expect by February we'll be back where we were again, and 2025 is going to be much, much bigger than 2024 for reasons that I'll come to explain. So that's the agency on that side. Then we've got Pearl Lemon Catering. So we have a catering company. We had our first month in a long time where we did several, maybe around £7,000. Thank you, Mel, because we've got someone in the seat of selling in catering that's doing really well. And that's reinvigorated the business, especially when we're in a place where, thank you SEO team, we're generating consistent inquiries for catering. And again, much like all of the other spaces, we're doing a lot on the back end in terms of generating inquiries to service the front end, which is closing business. So I do believe that 2025 will be a bigger year than 2024. So that's Pearl Lemon, that's the catering side as well as the agency. Then we've got we blew past 100, so we blew past 100 team members. So I think if I look at the company status up, or the company WhatsApp group, we've got maybe 113, 115 members in there. So we're well above 100 people now, which is fantastic. I enjoy running a company of that size. I enjoy the relationships, I enjoy the management of it, and it is not for everyone. There's a lot of people that I know that do extremely well, probably better than we do, one-person businesses, but with where we want to get to, we're definitely going to need firepower, manpower. So we've definitely blown past 100 staff, 113, but if we then include subcontractors, then we're probably up at closer to maybe 140 people, because on the cleaning side, on the repair side, on the catering side, there's suppliers and subcontractors that we work with as well. But in terms of, let's call it FTEs, full-time employees that work for us, at a minimum of 4 hours a day, because some of them actually are students doing 4 hours a day, but no other work, then we are at around 115 people. So that's that part there. So that also relates to then the core business development, if you will. We have strengthened the account management team. So we've got Cassidy, at this time of recording, Cassidy, Taryn, Caitlin, Temi, Seb. So we've got 5 account managers, and that will probably remain the same and grow a little bit more. But the point is that we've got a account management team that work across the businesses to help support the management of all of the clients, which is great. We've got an expanded sales team, which I'll come to. But what I think the biggest change is when I think about core business development is that in 2024, I spoke a lot about aligning people's personal desires and goals with what we're professionally trying to do at Pearl Lemon. I've expanded my own vision of what's possible at Pearl Lemon, and of course, as a consequence, it gets people naturally excited about what's possible, because I'm excited about what's possible. We're beginning to open doors and discover new pathways to get to where we need to go, where we must go, the £1 billion in revenue. And as a consequence, people can see their careers developing at Pearl Lemon, people can see them building their own future at Pearl Lemon, and I must have a vision that's big enough that everyone else can see themselves fitting inside of it. And I believe that that's becoming possible because of the height of the mountains which we want to scale. So that's been a core thing with the business development, if you will. So within that, if we look at some of the subcategories, North American growth, right? So we've had our biggest new growth has come from sales in North America. That's incredibly exciting because so I didn't realize until I asked ChatGPT, get this, the American market, as in just the United States of America, not North America, to include Canada and I think even Alaska, but Canada, is 7.4 times as big as the UK economy. We're primarily a UK-based business with people that want to do business in the UK. So we're growing and aggressively pushing in the US. So I'm really excited about what's possible in 2025 for the US. So North American growth is big. We've got several people now in the US and that continues to grow. So I do believe that North American growth is going to be big. So that's bucket number 1, which is a category. Bucket number 2 is also Indian market growth. So the Indian economy in 2024 overtook the UK economy and made some news. The Indian economy is set to overtake, for example, the Japanese and the German economy, which are both bigger than the UK economy. And that means, as a consequence, that we have registered pearllemonleads.in, Pearl Lemon Leads India, because we want to start doing business in India in general. So I'm quite excited to see how that develops, and we should be able to make some inroads and waves there, probably looking at Q3, so post-summer next year, we might begin to see how that picks up. So that's what I'm thinking about in terms of 2025. In terms of the other areas, the international outlook, so we are building literally pages for our websites that are global. So we are getting inquiries so for example, for catering, we've got an inquiry from the US Marines to do catering for them whilst they're posted at the Swedish embassy. We worked with a Swiss German law firm who came and did an event for catering. So particularly for catering and for event management, which is a space that we want to get into, we're seeing an expansion of inquiries that are coming in. And of course, with the growth and desire to grow North American inquiries to include Canada, because we've got Canadian websites also, Parliament. So the big business development is that we are growing in North America. So we're growing in the US by registering domains for the US, and we're growing the American team, which increases, of course, the payroll. We've got strong back office operations in, for example, in order, it would be Pakistan, like 50 plus people, India, maybe 10 plus people, Philippines, 5 plus people. Obviously, as you think about like wage or economy adjusted salaries, people in the US, you have to pay more for the front end. So that means that there's pressure to grow out ultimately leads and inquiries across the board to support the business overall. And that is absolutely happening. So that's where the international outlook comes from. And we're also looking at things such as being able to generate business in areas such as the GCC, which is ultimately the Arab region around the Gulf, etc. So that's another area that we're looking at, but probably not as high priority as North American, as then India. Well, North American, then UK, so we continue to want to grow in the UK. So if you recall the PPL stuff, all of the sites that we've registered are .co.uk, because we still are, I mean, my time zone is European, and it is still obviously useful to grow a big business in the UK. So there's still lots of work to do in the UK, but the US and Canada will be fast already looking to overtake it, and we not even scratch the surface of what's possible there. So then outside of that, we've got an expanded sales team. So I've invested in getting more sales reps in. More will come and more will continue. So that's just exciting to see that we've got Mel, Joe, Eon, Vishnu, Chika, Charles, Jilly, Johnny, the other Mel. So great. We've got like 9 people there, and there's probably others that maybe I've not made mention to. Wayne, that's 10. Luke, that's 11. Jude, that's 12. Tony, 13. So yeah, we've got actually over a dozen salespeople that are focused on closing leads that come in, which is brilliant. I'm just really excited about it. And to that end, then also looking outside of that, we have the Islamabad office that we're growing. So we subcontract out of one of our guys' office in Islamabad in Pakistan at the moment, and we are going to look for bigger premises to hold ultimately 20 seats, all things being well. So that's something that should be settled at some point towards end of Jan, early Feb that we're looking. The reason for the expansion in the Islamabad area is because it's really cost effective. It's much cheaper basically to do operations in Pakistan. You get incredible people at much more cost effective rates and can deliver quality that's more than good enough for a lot of the work that we do. And then you have office or middle management or client solutions or client facing in South Africa, and then delivery can be spread across also South Africa, India, and across the globe. But it really does work well. So that's where the Islamabad office comes into play, and the people that will be in that office are going to help us with our vision of. So that was the biggest update as well. We used to, if you met me March last year, March 2024, we probably had 30 websites, 40 websites. Now we have 100 plus, okay, and we're going to get to 300, I think, by end of 2025. Those websites need management, those websites need content, those websites need a lot of stuff. So that is how we're going to get to one of the bigger goals that we've got for 2025, which is 1,000 leads a day. But if you have 100 websites, all they need to do is 1 lead a day, and already you're at 100 leads a day, okay? So we got a goal to get to 1,000. The goal for 2025 is to get to 200 plus leads a day. So that's what we're doing with that in general. And that's where, in terms of the business updates, so the new business growth approach comes into play. So I mentioned something previously, which is window installation. So get this, Mel, one of our sales reps on the catering and digital side, met a bloke from Texas, a guy who was making $11 million a year just installing windows in Texas. That's what he's doing. Amazing. What did we do? What have we done already? Window installation services.co.uk. We're building out a bunch of websites, and we want to get into the window installation industry. So this is where some of the confidence comes from. So that's you know, the example of what we consider the new business growth structure. We spin out a couple of websites, we generate ultimately what we think will be fundamentally pages that will help us develop inquiries, and then we build out some of the businesses. So that's kind of the goals, if you will, in terms of where we're looking to go and some of the updates for 2025. So looking at this further still, I guess one of the big things is building a company structure. So if we look at all of the activity, all of the notes that I've made, so Parliament, the agency, catering, the core business development, 100 plus staff, North American growth, Indian growth, international outlook, expanded sales team, Islamabad office, 100 plus websites. Building a company structure is the thing that I think has been a really, really big thing that's changed in 2024. I absolutely have more freedom of time than I've ever had historically, and we're growing as a consequence of it. And actually, if you're an effective leader, you should have more freedom of time because you're empowering your team to figure out all of the problems and to get better. And the biggest thing that you can give to the people that are with you is that desire to improve, to be better, to get better, and to then earn the requisite rewards. And if you do that, it's much, much greater to give that, to give inspiration than to give directives. Because when people are inspired, they can do incredible work because they have the desire to want to get better, do better. And that's really the biggest thing. And then that means the thing that I care about most is, are we every month increasing the volume of inquiries that we get coming in? Because everything else follows after that. So now it's been an incredible year when it comes to business updates. And I think that the other big bucket, as I look at this list in terms of what we are also planning for 2025, is, because I've just realized that I've missed this, is running. So when I say running, we've set up pearllemonrunning.com, ultrarunning.co.uk, because now that I've reached a place in my running career, if you will, where I can say that I finished 18th in my first ever 200-mile run, I do know enough to begin to teach people to run effectively over long distances. So we want to set up a tour company to do running, and that's one of the other businesses that we're starting, that I'm incredibly excited and looking forward to the idea of having a running tour company that does tours across the UK and Italy primarily. So it's been a really, really good year from a business updates perspective. We're not doing huge as a company. We're doing maybe £1 to £1.5 million. But the important thing is that we're setting up structures in place that will allow us in 3 to 5 years to start making revenue leaps, to go from 1.5 to 2.2 to 4.9 to 9.8 to, and then at some point there'll be some kind of explosion which will lead us to 20 million, 50 million. And again, even as I say these numbers, and that's the important thing about speaking out loud exactly what's going, I see that those leaps are too small. To get to £1 billion in revenue, what do you need to do? So that's still something that I need to think about to figure out the delivery, but certainly the growth is going in the right direction. And that's even without talking about, because I see that I've missed it from this list, Parliament Accountants and Parliament Legal. Very briefly, we also at the moment are seeing a new growth of leads coming in for legal and for accounting. We have one salesperson in that position. We need to do some more work there. We need another sales rep, but the progress is good. We're getting several sites live. We have Parliament Tax, Parliament Accountants, which is great. We have Tronc Services, which is great. So that's going to lead to more accounting inquiries. And then we need to do some more work on the legal side to get more of the legal websites generating leads. But in any event, accounting and legal is looking strong. And I do believe that by end of Q1, we'll have made some strong progress now that I'm thinking about it. So that is everything from not everything, but that's a good summary of the business updates. And what we'll do is we'll now discuss in a bit of a separate segment, trading. So there was something that happened within my world that changed potentially everything for me a couple of months back. So a buddy of mine, Luke, thank you, made £57,000 in one day, a couple of hours from day trading. £57,000, okay? So as soon as I saw that happen, and he's best man at my wedding, best buddy, I instantly had a bit of an emotional paradigm shift in terms of what I should do to change the fortunes and future of the company. So I have now gone on an aggressive journey of learning how to trade. I have 5 to 7 different tutors across India and Nigeria that I am paying to teach me a whole range of different things. So to include forex trading, to include swing trading, to include day trading, to include scalping, to include cryptocurrency investment and cryptocurrency trading, and it continues outside of that, to be honest with you, but that's already 6 buckets. So I have tutors. I've probably logged. I started this journey November the 1st, let's say. I had 2 weeks more or less off, one for my ultra, one for the Christmas period. So I've had maybe around 6 weeks, but in 6 weeks I've still managed to log 6 weeks, and I've done often 7 days a week. So 6 weeks times 7 is 42 days. 42 days, I've probably done 2 hours a day on average of actual tuition every day. So I've logged over 80 hours of one-to-one tuition outside of taking courses, paid courses, as well as a lot of stuff on YouTube. And I have a goal, and it bleeds into the 2025 goals, of generating £50,000 a week from trading within 2025 itself. Luke has gone on an amazing journey over the course of several years. I now am at a stage of business where I'm fortunate to have significant freedom of time, enough freedom of income because of the structures that we're talking about that I've set up, to be able to focus on the trading side of it, to be able to focus on that area massively. If I get to that stage where I'm able to deliver that, then it will change everything within my life. Everything will change if I can develop and generate that kind of return. As you can imagine, with 80 hours plus of learning, which continues, I spoke to Kush today, I spoke to Arun, and I spoke to Vikrant. I did 3 hours, I did 3 classes today, not 3 hours, 3 classes. So I, even today itself, did 3 classes. Broadly speaking, in terms of how I'm thinking of approaching it, I am going to do a combination of swing trading, I'm going to do day trading, I'm going to look at scalping. I'm going to try a little bit of everything to understand where I can levy the best return. I see this as becoming a huge space. We are going to set up a fund. I will be trading money of others. I believe that this approach I'm taking, because of the volume of one-to-one tuition, which is very, very different from group calls and ultimately very, very different from passively taking courses, is going to lead to a step change in how quickly I'm learning. So trading has been the biggest area of learning for me in the last couple of months. I'm really, really excited for 2025. I do see £50,000 a week coming from trading. That will become £1 million ARR within 2025. So yeah, day trading, or let's call it trading in general, trading / investing is something that is going to be a big part of 2025. We already have registered day trading coach. We have got Pearl Lemon Invest. The staff at Pearl Lemon are already committing some funds to the initial tranche of trading, where I'm going to give the most favorable terms as I learn. And I'm extremely bullish on learning everything I can about trading. I'm, as I said, watching the YouTubes, I'm watching paid programs, I'm doing several hours of classes per day, and I talk about it because of the whole point we made about manifestation and how important it is to speak about things that scare you, because you've got much more chances of those things becoming reality as a consequence of speaking about them. So £50,000 a week, there will be weeks where it will happen within 2025. Ideally, within the first 3 to 6 months, I'm going to have a £50,000 week. So trading / investing is a big space for me in 2025. And watch out for some separate content in relation to that. And I think that at this point, we can go and now segue into the goals for 2025 in general. My goals for 2025, I'll go through personal and then we'll talk about professional So, look, personally, Daniel and I want to start a family, so there's not going to be any ultra marathon running this year. Certainly not 200-mile runs, because the training requirement is significant, and I want us to have the time and opportunity to really focus on building a family. So that's priority to a degree number one when it comes to what I want to do personally. I still am going to continue to run, so I would like to do a personal best at marathon distance. So that would be really cool to see if I can do a sub 240 marathon. I'm still kind of debating how I'm going to manage that, because if it does come with a level of intensity that makes it problematic or interferes with our ability to have a family, then I'll probably just not do it. Anyway, so that's one of the other goals that I've got. So shorter distance PBs, basically personal best. So start a family, marathons. I want to, of course, grow all of the current projects I've got. You know, I want to grow and do more professional videos on YouTube. The 2024 and reflection thing is new. I want to obviously do another one in 2025. I want to continue to try and attempt to grow the social side of the business. So I'll talk about the other vehicles that we're focused on growing as well. So 15,000 emails a day. For those of you in the team, you'll be aware of this, but for those of you who kind of don't know anything about what I'm discussing, one of the goals that I've got is for us to send out 15,000 emails a day to generate leads for the business. So cold email campaigns, PR campaigns, interviews, so all of this type of stuff. So that's something that I really want to make sure that we get towards by Feb 1st. We want to have that machine in motion, if you will. So that's going to be a big thing. We are already actually, I didn't even mention it in company updates, but I had a goal to build a PR machine. So when I say PR machine, get us lots of, let's call it backlinks or links in high authority websites, and we're at the moment sending out 100 pitches a day, like 100 pitches a day to different publications, different journalists, different websites. So that's going quite well, because we're getting at least a couple of links live per week, every week. So I'm looking to see that continue strongly into 2025 and get it maybe up to a place where we can get 200 pitches a day going out to different journalists. There's going to be crossover and cannabis. There's challenges that come with it, but 200 pitches a day would be great. Maintaining 100, I'm honestly happy with anyway. So consistency of that is great. By the end of 2025, 200. So we've got 15,000 emails a day. We've got 200 PR pitches per day. We've got my marathon PBs. We've got starting the family. We've got growing the projects, everything of which we've discussed. The most notable one probably being a £50,000 week from trading. However it comes in, whether it's crypto investments, whether it's scalping, whether it's day trading, whether it's futures and options, because I'm taking a shed load of programs and I intend to continue my aggressive learning journey for 6 months. I'm literally 6 weeks in, so we've still got another ultimately 24 weeks. So 6 fours are 24. We've got probably another 18 weeks of training to do before I'd say, look, enough training now, let's execute. But I'm already live on the stock markets and ultimately trading. And that really, and of course, like video, I've got a commitment to social. I don't have a brand in any way of the manner that I want. So doing more of this stuff, we're growing a little £500,000 a year video directing business would be great. This is something that I've got in plans with Jose, who's watching this, because that would then give me the bankroll to not pay for any of this stuff, because I'm able to generate income that can pay for the video directing team. We already have a video editing team, but I want to build out a video directing team in London, as well as really across Europe. So that's something that I'm looking to have and to achieve as well. So there's some of the goals that I've got for 2025 in general. And on that note, I think I'll just really wrap up by saying, if you've got all the way through to the end of the video, let me know if you've got any questions in the comments, if there's anything that you've got curiosities about. It's my team, if you're watching, let me know if there's anything that I've missed. I am very excited for 2025. There is so much opportunity, there's so much that we can do, and I am going to continue to push. I'm going to continue to be aggressive in my approach, and I have seen how much has been achieved, beginning with literally the importance of speaking about your goals, speaking about your dreams. So we spoke about the manifestation and goal setting and not being afraid to talk about the things that you wish to achieve in your life, because even if they seem crazy and insane, it begins to set the wheels in motion to get to the goals that you have for yourself in your life. So I want to have a transformative life. I want to change the lives of all of the people around me. I want to be someone that people read about on Wikipedia, that has dedicated, but because of the success that we've achieved and the way that we've done it, and have fun along the way, because at the end of the day, it is a game. I am having fun, and I want to play the game as effectively as possible. So I'm 38 years old. I definitely spoke to people privately, but now I see it publicly as my 30s as being my personal MBA. I'm just figuring out this business stuff. I really got serious about, okay, I want to figure out how to run a business when I was 30. I had a breakdown moment when I was crying in a single room in a family shared home near Amsterdam Zuid, which is Amsterdam South, where I was renting a place when I was living in Amsterdam for a couple of months. And I had a bit of a breakdown because it was my 30th birthday. I chose to be by myself. I'm from a strong family unit, and it was that moment where I thought, okay, it's time to go home and to sort your shit out, because I spent a lot of my 20s traveling and dabbling in business. But then at 30, I thought, time to get serious. These years have been my personal MBA. I still feel that I'm in it. So I think my 30s is my education, my 40s I'll get rich, and in my 50s I'll make many, many, many other people rich around me. So with that all being said, thank you if you've been watching, and that's my 2024 reflections and my 2025 goals, and that's a wrap.